Hello, this is Kim with Standing on Solid Ground. I am your host of the Spiritually Motivated and Inspirational Podcast. And today's Who is This? A Gentile. A Gentile is defined as not Jewish. In Matthew 10 and 5, these 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. Jesus gave them specific instructions. And I believe it's because he was opening up a door for Paul, who was then Saul before he stopped him on his way to Damascus. Now, the Gentiles, according to the Bible, of course, again, persons who are not Jewish. The word stems from the Hebrew term goy, which means a nation, and was applied both to the Hebrews and to other nations. The plural goyim, especially with the definite article hagoyim, the nations, meant nations of the world that were not Hebrew. Very interesting information because, I often ask questions like, well, why were we considered Gentiles? Why did God separate us from the Jews? And why weren't we all considered Jews? And how did a Gentile come into our habitation? If we go back to the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, one could believe that they were Gentiles. Why? Because there were no Jews at that time. It was just Adam and Eve. Jews, or the Jewish culture, did not really come along until possibly Abraham's time, when God had told him of his people that will be coming along as the sand of the beach of the land, that many nations will come from his loins. And believing that during that time, we can honestly say that if we really wanted to think and look at it, Adam and Eve possibly could have started the Gentile nation. It's just that Abraham, because he was a Hebrew or Jew, along with Moses and Elijah and different ones throughout those generations, the Jewish nation was established most definitely through the children of Israel. Israel is known to be Jewish. So it was profound and very nurturing to me to even learn this. Many times we often wonder where we come from. Where did these names come from? Now, in Acts 28:28, be known therefore unto you that the salvation of God is sent unto the Gentiles, that they will hear it. In this time, this is where Paul came into existence. Because if we go to Romans 11 and 13, for I speak to you, Gentiles, as much as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify my office. So he was the apostle for the Gentiles, those individuals that were not Jews or in the Jewish culture. If we continue on, Acts 15, and I'm going to start at verse 7. And when there had been much disputing, Peter rose up and said unto them, Men and brethren, ye know how that a good while ago God made choice among us, that the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe. And God, which knoweth the hearts, bear them witness, giving them the Holy Ghost, even as he did unto us, and put no difference between us and them, purifying the hearts by faith. So Peter was letting them know, hey, God sent me to preach to the Gentiles. Now, Jesus earlier on told them not to go to the Gentile way, to only speak unto the Jews at that time, because they were disciples or apostles for the Jewish nation. But Peter and Paul, more so Paul, was selected to preach unto the Gentiles. Acts 10:2, a devout man, and one that feared God with all his house, which gave him alms to the people and prayed to God always. This was Cornelius. Cornelius was recognized as a Gentile and not as a Jew. Very important information to learn. Many will say that Cornelius was the beginning of the Gentile nation, but God does not really specifically designate how the Gentile people came into play. Because if we really think about it, when God told Noah and his sons to be fruitful and multiply, they were Jewish. Now, the Jewish nation expanded greatly. Where did that disconnect come in? Because wouldn't you think that we will all be Jewish at some degree? Because we all stemmed from Noah and his 3 sons. Think about that. But God made it very clear that Samaritans and Gentiles, or Jesus did, that the disciples or the apostles at that time were not to go that way to the Gentiles and to the Samaritans. So I would love to know where the disconnect came in, where we had 3 different nations of people, the Jews, the Gentiles, and the Samaritans. Where did that all come into play? Because at some point, they all had to come from Noah and his lineage. Just thinking about it. Now, Adam and Eve and Seth, Cain, they were still living at that time, but I believe that somewhere there was a commune or a getting to know you in relation where someone wasn't a Jew. And it would be only God's business to really know where that came about, because all we were taught in the Old Testament was of the Jewish generation or nation. So the question would be, where did actually Gentiles come from? Because they made it very clear that they are not a Jew or of the Jewish descent. Very, very clever. More studying we have to go through. Maybe God will open it up to me. Maybe he won't. But the who is this of today is a Gentile. And a Gentile is considered not Jewish or of the Jewish descent. This is Kim with Standing on Solid Ground. You have yourself a wonderful and blessed day.